Hey guys, my name is Neel and welcome to Neel Workshop Zone. So in this episode we're going to be talking about inbuilt data types. So in a previous episode we talked about keywords and interpreter and variables, and in this episode we're going to be talking about inbuilt data types. So if you haven't checked out my previous episode, where I talked about all of this, link will be in the description because in this episode variables are going to play a little key part in understanding what data types are. So data types and variables are a little bit similar. So if you watch the variables episode, you might get a better understanding of what data types are. So now let's talk about data types. So, now we're going to be talking about data types, right? So, what are data types? Data types are used for classification of data items. So, if you haven't watched my previous, Python programming language episode where I talked about variables, you must have noticed that variables are used for, storing some amount of value which can help you, while writing your code. So, data types are mostly the same, but in data types you can also store different types of code. So, for example, let's take numerical set. Or not mostly like set, they're called numeric type. So we're going to be talking about types. So numeric types, you have integer, you have float, and then you have complex. So in these three types of numeric types, first is integer. So integer is used to store, numbers like -1, negative integers, 0 and positive integers. So that is what integer is used for. And next is float. So float is used for fractions or decimals. So for example, something like 3.27 or 3.14, etc. And next you have complex. Now complex are really hard, but they are really useful when you're writing code. So for complex you can write something like, just for example, a is equals to x plus y and b is equals to x minus y. So c c is equals to a multiplied by b, and print c. So you have to also give like the values for x and y, but these can be used for complex complex problem solving. So that is what complex is used for. So numeric types are mostly consists of numbers or numerical values, or something related to numerical values, that will help in storing the data. So now let's talk about Boolean type. Now Boolean type is mostly easy. So Boolean type basically indicates true or false. Now true or false is really helpful. So for example, imagine you want something like a is equals to 7, and if a minus a is equals to 0, if true, then you have to print something like, for example, you can keep a loop like, for example, if this is true, then you have to print it's true, and if it isn't true, then it must print something like, and if it's false, then it must print something like it's false. So it's basically used for it's basically used for using in loops and also in finding out like answers to sums. So that is basically Boolean. It's mostly true or false, and it helps you in solving the problems. Next you have string type. So string type basically includes you know so now you have text type. So text type text type consists of string. So string is used for words, etc. So for example, you can store a is equals to Neel, or b is equals to zone, etc. So these can be used for remembering huge names which you don't know. So it's basically variable, but instead of storing numbers you can store words. So that is basically strings. Next you have sequence type, where you have like list, tuple, range. Now three of these are a little bit complicated, so we're going to be talking about them in the future videos. But just for giving a telling you what it's basically about, you can store multiple values in them. So for example, you can store something like a is equals to 10, 20, 30. You can store values multiple values like this. Now all three of them do the same function, but three of them have some major differences. And I can't say differences now because it will be a lot confusing. So we'll probably learn about them as we move on forward. So that is basically the other types. Now this might be a really short episode, but it's a really important episode. There aren't that many complicated points or anything. They're just simple points, but there are you have to remember them since it becomes really useful as we're moving on forward. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. And that's all folks, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.